How's everyone?
I'm back, baby.
It's Jake Ciely.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
no. It's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
You know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
What's up, you ducks? Week 2 is almost in the books. And Chris, from that intro, you know who's saying, I'm great, everybody else sucks? How about Derek freaking Henry in week 2? As we recap and cover everything fantasy football related. Maybe a little bit of sneak preview for Monday Night Football, but there's a lot. You said before the show, I think there's so much, Chris, you didn't even realize how many injuries potentially happened this week. But we'll get to all of it. As a reminder, code ALLIN. Code ALLIN at FTN, 25% off. If you go to theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals, you get a first free month at The Athletic, so you can check out the rankings over there. Sunday mornings, I'm in there. I'm answering all your comments before kickoff. That's where I'm answering. That's why I don't get to Twitter a lot of times, so sorry for that. But at Chris Meaney, make sure you're following him. Hockey's coming soon. I know I'm going to be bugging him about that so I can ruin all his props in one night as possible on shots on goal. But real quick, you know what, Chris? You didn't seem to be injuries. What was your biggest takeaway from week 2? Because the injuries didn't seem to impact you, at least.
No, I mean, we'll get into Fields and Darrell Henderson and Landry, I suppose. But the biggest takeaway for me is this Raiders team legit? Honestly, like, are you kidding me? Like, Las Vegas is 2-0. Nobody gave them any credit for even that week 1 win. I heard more excuses about the Ravens than I heard about Las Vegas. And then they play the Steelers, a West Coast team, going to the East Coast, an early start. The Steelers defense just made Buffalo look really bad on offense, and everyone's questioned the Bills. And they were without Josh Jacobs, and they won that game again. And Derek Carr is sitting here after 2 weeks, leading the NFL in passing attempts and leading the NFL in passing yards. This guy has, I went back and counted it, Jake, over the last 6 games. I mean, there was one game where he left early and Marcus Mariota took over. So over the last 6 games here, full 6 games, he is averaging 361 passing yards per game, Mr. Derek Carr. I don't know, man. That's kind of my big takeaway from week 2.
Yeah, so I guess we can start with that game, and we'll get to the San Francisco game second, because guess what? We have to talk more Elijah Mitchell again this week, as if we haven't talked to him enough. You know what I took away from that game, Chris? Henry Ruggs time, man. Henry Ruggs is here. Week 1, showed up a bit. Didn't get the touchdown like Edwards did, but weeks 2, big one. I will say this, joking aside, like, time is here, but I think at the same time, because if you follow me or if you follow anybody who's been on the Henry Ruggs bandwagon, and by the way, I'm going to loop him into the conversation because he's on the same playing field here, is Jalen Reagor would have been in the same conversation if not taken away on that penalty, because Jalen Hurts made an amazing throw. Jalen Reagor had an amazing big catch, which could have been a touchdown and got taken away. So both of them, it's been the fact that I kept pumping up. And Judy was on the same page, all 3 of them. Second year, having Alpha next to them, being able to break out and play more of their style. It's happening. All that being said, Chris, now this is coming from the Henry Ruggs quote-unquote guy. I think if there are people out there going bananas thinking he could be top 25, I don't think his ceiling is more than a potential Marquise Brown of like 8-15, 8-15, like hovering around there. Maybe get a 20-point game, and then you get like a 3 and a 2, and you kind of get left out most of the game. So excited, but I'm also like, let's be realistic about him. Am I being too tempered on him after all this time of waiting for Henry Ruggs?
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought you'd be a little bit more excited. Like, sky's the limit for Henry Ruggs. Your first appearance on Mean Streets, we talked about 2 breakout wide receivers, and those were the 2 guys, and Ruggs and Jalen Reagor. And yeah, Reagor just stepped out of bounds. I mean, it was a perfect throw from Jalen Hurts. Otherwise, we'd be talking about him. I mean, we are, but the fantasy community would be talking about him a little bit more here today. But for Henry Ruggs, there's going to be some inconsistent games. Of course there is, but Derek Carr is slinging it, and he's always been a pretty accurate quarterback, and he's taken some deep shots. No Nelson Aguilar on this squad this year, so it opens up an opportunity for Henry Ruggs. And I know a lot of people are getting excited about John Brown in the offseason, but Brown was just like, he wasn't a factor throughout camp because Ruggs and Edwards, I mean, quote unquote balling out. I mean, they were making plays in camp and they were looking good. So last year, among wide receivers with at least 40 targets, using the free tools, air yards tools over at ftndaily.com, Ruggs was number 1 in ADOT. He's a deep threat guy. We've seen it twice now. It took a while in week
top
1.
5 in yards left on the field.
Yeah.
Like not being on the same page for Derek Carr last year.
And I saw a little bit of that too, Jake, in week 1, a couple of routes that he ran, him and Carr were certainly not on the same page, but I mean, they were yesterday on the deep ball. Is another kind of walk-off, quote-unquote, walk-off touchdown for Carr. He's going to take some deep shots with him. He's a guy that I think, could there be some down weeks from him, but those big booms are significant. He should be rostered. I wouldn't sell. And I don't know, we could be talking about him as a flex at least. I don't think top 25, but I think top 40,
flex.
Top 45.
I think it's really good. Yeah, and I said it's like the Chiefs because, and I'm not saying because he's Tyreek Hill. He's never going to be Tyreek Hill. Actually, their bodies aren't exactly the same. But if you look at it, if you focus, which is what happened in that game, if you focus that much on taking away Darren Waller, Ruggs and Edwards. Like, if you focus that much on taking away Tyreek Hill, guess what? Travis Kelce is going to obliterate you, and Hardman and Pringle and Robinson are going to do stuff to, like, you just can't do it. So I agree. Alex, I was just about to go to that. Hunter Renfrow is their Cole Beasley. I said that last week. I actually said those exact words. He is their Cole Beasley. Actually, I think I said that to Pat Mayo, though. I don't remember. All these shows, between this, the Pat Mayo show, Joel Holka, and on the Athletic podcast, like, I don't remember who I told what to. Sometimes I repeat myself. Sometimes I'm like, I said that, and we're like, no, you never did, because it was just in my head. But I'm with that. But on the other side of the ball, hopefully Deante Johnson's okay. We're going to have to wait on word for that. As we talked with Tino before we came on the show, of course, it has to be like late in the game. And Deante Johnson, as you mentioned, Chris, seems to be the same injury he's been dealing with. We know top 15 wide receiver when healthy, but he's not the one I want to talk to. I would love to talk to any of them. He's not the one I want to talk about on the Steelers. And it's not Najee Harris and all the panic after week 1, just like all the panic of Derrick Henry in week 1, and everybody's fine now. I was talking about if you're looking for tight ends, Pat Freiermuth, he is already on the radar, out snapping Eric Ebron right out of the gates. He's week 2. He's out there more than Ebron, and he's getting touches and he's getting looks. Is Freiermuth, put it this way, I got to loop in somebody I wasn't going to even talk about, but Cole Comet did a yesterday. Actually, here's what Cole Comet did for everybody. Yep, there you go. Cole Comet, would you put it that way? Would you drop Cole Comet for Freiermuth?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. It's just one game here. I still believe in Cole Komet. We're going to get a switch at quarterback, right? We're going to get that switch. Yeah, it's just they threw him in there and wasn't prepped, and I thought he did okay. I mean, Fields threw the brutal pick, but
Andy Dalton.
no doubt. So Nagy's going to get kind of a free pass here. Like, no disrespect to Andy Dalton, but he's going to be able to make the quarterback switch. And he said after the post game that he feels that Fields has done everything that they asked him to, and they feel comfortable rolling him out. So Cole Komet was a guy that over his first 8 games last year as a rookie, I mean, you can count the targets and the catches on basically one hand. In the last few weeks, it was like 30 targets, 20 grabs, and he was starting to nothing spectacular, at least 37 yards, and I believe 4 of his final 6 games. And then he had the decent week 1 against the Rams. I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass, but you're right to bring up Pat here. Freiermuth is a guy who's maybe going to start to get an uptick. Certainly a red zone weapon for Big Ben. Moving ahead of Eric Ebron is not totally surprising. But man, overall, I mean, this Steelers offense, I'm not worried about Najee Harris, and Johnson is fine, but Big Ben, he looks even worse than last year.
Hey, you know what happens when Pat runs routes way downfield? It's Pat Deep Freiermuth. You want to know what happens when he shies away from contact? He's Pat Chicken Freiermuth.
I like that one. That's one of your best ones. That's one of your best ones. I'll give you props for that one. What do you think? You would make the swap for him and Cole Komet?
You know when he has a goofy touchdown celebration? He's Pat Turkey Freiermuth.
That one's okay. That was not as good as the second one you had. The chicken Freiermuth.
You know when he goes up to catch a ball that's contested? Pat Air Freiermuth.
Now that one's not bad too. I'm a big fan of air fryers. Go and get yourself an air fryer. Do you have
They're
one?
just convection ovens.
They're great.
No, I know, but they're just convection ovens. They're like air fryers. No, we've had these things for 75 years. They're just
They're quicker than the like convection oven.
They're just toaster ovens. They're convection toaster ovens. We've had them forever. It's just it's a catchy little phrase that they're bringing back, and like air fryer because it sounds all healthy. And now they're making nicer ones, admittedly, because some of the old toaster ovens were pretty crappy. But convection air is when it circulates the oven air, which is what an air fryer is. It doesn't actually fry the food. It's just a convection oven.
Sure,
anyway.
but I don't know about your oven, but man, I get my air fryer, whatever I put in there is done before my oven heats up.
Oh, of course,
It's all about the time. It's all the time for me. Like I got no time.
Because it's toaster oven.
Yeah.
All right. Did you get to see Barkley, by the way, while you're going on? All right. So
I didn't.
We gotta come up with some more fryer booths. But
I think we have enough.
I would go after him instead of going after. I'll put it this way. I would go after instead of the Saints guys. I would go after him instead of the Browns guys. We've been trying for the Browns guys, even with no Landry. No, we're not going to jump to that game because we got to get to the San Francisco game. There are some others. We'll talk about on waivers tomorrow, 11 a.m. with Mom Lauren. Make sure you're back for that and maybe drop in some of your fryer mooths that we can get. So, wait, which were your two favorites? Was chicken fryer and air fryer were the two favorites?
Yeah. Chicken's pretty good. Yeah.
Chicken fryer mooth?
Yeah.
When he's scared. All right. San Francisco. We weren't getting Shanahan, Chris. We weren't. Elijah Mitchell was getting the vast bulk of touches, and Trey Sermon was not even on the field. It was JaMychal Hasty getting sprinkled in. What was happening to Elijah Mitchell is that offensive line was doing nothing in that game. Absolutely nothing. Your Philadelphia Eagles said, their run defense this year through 2 games is looking pretty fearsome, concerning matchup-wise at least. But Jimmy Garoppolo was also stealing some touches, and then Elijah Mitchell gets banged up. Thought he got the touchdown, gets banged up on that play. No touchdown and banged up, comes out of the game. We finally get Trey Sermon, and he gets hurt immediately, tackled basically in the back of the neck. So he's in concussion protocol this week. I'm surprised he doesn't have a stinger or something like that. But Hasty gets banged up too. So I hate to say it, Chris. I think this is similar to I don't want to see Andy Dalton hurt in order to have Fields happen, and I don't want to see running backs plural, including Trey Sermon, who I like, hurt to see this happen. But are we confident RB2 again next week with Elijah Mitchell because there's nobody left standing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was encouraging to see him just get the touches, to your point. I mean, 17 carries, finishes inside the top 10. So back-to-back weeks, he's inside the top 10 in rushing attempts. And yeah, the Eagles' run defense looks like the Eagles' run defense of years prior, right? Last year was just a complete crapshoot across the board, all over the field, both sides. But the 2 years prior to that, they've been defense that, typically you avoid running backs, at least in DFS. I mean, you play guys who are going to get the opportunity, but, I thought he looked okay. He ran into a wall a couple times. He had, 2 or 3 decent runs. And yeah, Sermon didn't touch the ball. I mean, 1 carry was 5 minutes left in the game. They're up 2 scores. And they gave him the ball, and it was an unfortunate incident. I think he got hit 2 or 3 different times. He got smacked, and then he got smacked on the way down, and then he landed on his head too. So it was a pretty scary incident. I was glad to see him, get back up. But JaMychal Hasty actually, I thought, looked more impressive. Now he had fewer touches, but he's certainly going to be involved as well. I like Mitchell more. I don't think you can trust Hasty, but he should certainly be rostered. I think his ownership, maybe even in Yahoo leagues, is 6%. And I think that's just people in deeper leagues saying, no, I don't trust Shanahan. I got to grab a piece of this offense if I can. But he was catching balls in the backfield. And he was catching balls in the backfield and running really strong. But yeah, as long as Mitchell's healthy, I think a guy that's going to be, top 15 in touches.
I think we saw clear yesterday is where I'm going to double down and say it. If you told me talent, I'm still taking Sermon. I know Shanahan hasn't and doesn't like what he's seen, but I'm going back to my pre-draft, post-draft profile and write-up on Sermon and Mitchell is fine. He's a one-cut runner, has some explosiveness, a little bit faster than Sermon, but if you want a complete running back and somebody who can go inside and outside, and again, he doesn't have the top-end speed of Mitchell, but can play all 3 downs, can pass block a little bit, I would go Sermon. I still think it is, and that's why I was buying low on Sermon while also going aggressively after Mitchell, so I hope Sermon's okay, but at least for fantasy purposes, it's clear. Side note, and this is the waiver show, but are you sneaking Jeff Wilson onto your IR somewhere just because it's only 5 more weeks until he's part of this mess and potentially back in the lead?
Yeah, you should. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's, in deeper formats, it is really annoying, but what Shanahan likes, and you're talking about speed, and I agree with you with Sermon, and I think that's why Elijah was, just getting the benefit of the doubt. I mean, to start early on is that he does play with a lot of speed, and Shanahan does like that inside his offense. But
running back in the NFL. Oh, no, wait, that's Breida. Mostert's up there, though.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Mostert runs real hard, and he's got a lot of speed, but we know that he's done now. But they want to run the football. Like, even watching yesterday, I thought the 49ers, I didn't think they looked that great, to be honest. I mean, they escaped and they got the victory. Everything seems to go through Debo, and the Eagles did a good job of taking Kittle away, but they want to run the football, and that's what they're going to want to do from here on out the rest of the way. They don't want Jimmy dropping back 40 plus times. I mean, even Garoppolo made a couple throws that were completely off, but Shanahan said there was no way that Lance was getting in that football game. I don't know, man. Like, if you're in a deeper league, sure, Wilson. You just don't know who could be the next man up.
Shanahan's also why I wasn't stashing Lance, is because, again, this team, I think their MO is they won, but it wasn't that pretty. Like, that should just be like
they're a little overrated.
Yeah. But at the same time, they are a playoff contender, and until that's different or Garoppolo gets hurt, I just don't see him turning away from Garoppolo. So on the 49ers side of things, Ayuk, a buy low for you. He's a great buy low for me, in my opinion, because already in the second game back, all that Shanahan, he needs to show me this, blah, blah, blah. Nobody in the community was believing he was telling the truth because he's Shanahan. But also, when you said it, I'm never going to believe that Ayuk and Sherfield are on the same talent level. And then we saw it. But if you watch that game, admittedly, it still looked like Ayuk wasn't quite 100%, but he was out there for the second most snaps. And I feel like this is a buy low opportunity before he potentially gets out there and has value similar to Debo. Are you on that same page?
Yeah, I mean, I said it last week that I believed in the Ayuk skill set over Trent Sherfield. I think he's a nice player, and it's a cool story. But yeah, Brandon Ayuk he's a great talent, man. Like, last year there was a lot of guys who were hurt, so he was getting so many targets, which we just couldn't expect that to be the case this season. But you're right. Last night or yesterday, I noticed he was out there a little bit more. He was returning punts, so he can't be
too hurt.
I don't know. He's not 100%, but he can't be that hurt if he's returning punts, which he did in week 1 too, by the way. But he played the second most snaps, like you said, and the second most routes run. And, he just had the 2 targets, 1 grab. But yeah, last week you could buy low. And this week I still think the window is open to buy low. I think people will probably drop him in your standard, like, just, I don't know, 10, 12 team leagues. I'll probably just say no chance. So maybe you want to wait until waivers. But if he's still on the team, then you can check in.
I said Rager sneaky grab if he's out there on waivers, but also because he might get dropped after the people are just going to see the box score and not know what happened with Rager, and go pick him up immediately because the opportunity was there. The Eagles offense was also belly up in that game. That was a miserable game to watch all around. You real quick before we move to the next one, are you concerned about George Kittle through two games?
No. I'm not.
You hesitated a little bit.
Well, I'm not worried about him where I'm dropping him or trading him.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it's
all right.
Well, here breaking down all the games.
Wait. You said you're not dropping or trading him. So or trading. So let me say this: if you could get pre-draft value for Kittle, do you get the hell out?
Sure. Like, what would that be? Like a third round?
Rounder?
Yeah. Like, sure. Well, I'm thinking about the guys that went in the third round, that like Amari Cooper and like a Tyler Lockett.
No, I mean, obviously you're not going to get ones that played great
through
the first 2 games. No, but you could get a low-end wide receiver 1 who hasn't necessarily played great, or an RB2. Here, I'll transition to a game here, Chris. Straight up trade. Went around similar spots in the draft, maybe a little bit earlier. Shut up, everybody. I know. The point being is you could probably get this trade right now. George Kittle, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Man, I'm a little concerned about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but that certainly is about context. Yeah.
But wouldn't you take the running back? Oh, Kittle or Hawkinson? I think it's definitively Hawkinson unless he goes belly up tonight. Hawkinson,
just the targets. Right?
It's just the volume. It's Darren Waller like volume. Here, the Clyde Edwards situation. It's funny. So week 1 said, "Oh, this is great. Go buy low." He was out there, got every touch except for 1.
Yep.
Yesterday, he was out there, got all touches, but what? 3 this time?
Yeah.
But again, another game where the Kansas City Chiefs offense did plenty, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire was kind of less standing. And they took away Tyreek Hill. They took him out of the game, and it wasn't replaced Tyreek Hill with even more Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire got the same mid-teen touches, got the same workload he got in the first week. But it seems like, Chris, it might be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, low-end RB2, unless he scores.
Right. Yeah, and he's not catching balls into the backfield. And didn't they They put in Williams, who came. McKinnon had the score, but he also lost a red zone rushing opportunities as well. So if he's not going to get goal line work and he's not going to be a player out of the backfield catching balls, then what do you have? You're right. You have a low end RB2 unless he scores a touchdown. So I think, I was in on this guy heading in. I'm not going to lie. I was too. The point is, like, he's still getting a bulk of the snaps. Putting the ball on the ground obviously is not ideal, but you want to see him. It's a revamped offensive line, and you'd like to see him. I don't know, not even just find the end zone, but maybe get double-digit fantasy points when your team puts up like 40, right? Like, be involved in the offense somehow, and that just wasn't the case. Yeah, you're right. Patrick Mahomes was just saying, okay, if you're going to double team and triple team Tyreek Hill, then we're going to throw to Pringle. We're going to throw to Hardman.
I'm still going to be Patrick Mahomes.
Robinson.
Still screw that Where's-Alaire guy.
Yeah, like who cares about a running back?
No, and even with the fumble, the workload was still there. It's not like he fumbled and got the Belichick treatment or anything like that. So I just think it's more of what you said. It was looped into your explanation, but I think it's come back to look at last year. Week 1, for everybody that doesn't know, 7 goal-to-go rush attempts. Actually, inside the 5 was 1 for 7. After that game, that was week 1. After that game, and you know this, Chris, for the rest of the season, he got 8 more opportunities. 8 after 7 in week 1. And I'm pretty sure he was 0 for 8, if not maybe like 1 for 8. But I think that he's just not going to get that. And I think we're looking at Matt Forte of, he gets vultured by blah, 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 or this person or whatever. By the way, that one season where Matt Forte was scoring all the touchdowns was the most amazing thing ever. He was like, wasn't he like the 3rd best running back that year? But
didn't he have like 99? Did he have like 100 receptions or 99 or something like that?
He was way up there too. So, but that's the thing. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire, what you're saying, if he's not going to get the receiving game where he could potentially even get a touchdown in there receiving the ball because he can elude defenders, and he's sticking in this 14 to 16 touches, 15 of the 16 touches being in the run game, I think we have a concern level. I think he is, until further notice, low-end RB2, which is fine.
So would you buy? Would you buy him? Because now is the time. Like, I mean, PFF says he's the worst graded running back after 2 weeks. Yes. Like, now is the time if you want to get this guy.
Here's why. They're not turning to Darrell Williams.
Right.
They're not turning to Jerick McKinnon. And they've already started using, and already did, using McKinnon in the passing game in the preseason, and also yesterday's game. I just don't think there's that many opportunities for the running back pass catchers. Do you not ever? I'm gonna keep talking until you put it back in. Do you ever not have like ear problems?
Buddy, you're a jinx, man. Like you give me some hockey, I give you some hockey plays, and then you lose them. I got the IFB in here, which I thought I'd be rolling with perfectly. Clearly, it's not fitting in the ear properly. So no, it's I guess I always have something going on. That just sounds like you have a
weird shaped thing going on. That doesn't sound like my problem. Maybe you have weird ears or something. I don't know what you have.
I do have big ones. Like I used to. My uncle when I was a kid, like he asked me, like, what. He said I looked like a car going down the road with 2 doors open. It's like, thanks, bud.
That's Andrew Siciliano. Although I love Andrew Siciliano.
Yeah, how could you not? Yeah, he embraces it too. Like you have to.
He knows. It's not. Yeah, I'm not talking about it. I used to do. That was my very, 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 very first radio thing I ever did. Was a local Fox Sports affiliate here, and we were on right before Siciliano, so I got to hear a lot of Siciliano. Nice. Yeah, doing that. Sometimes I ran the board for everybody going way back in the day. By the way, leaving. Yeah, I know Sermon. That's actually a really good point. Sermon didn't spend a lot of time with the quarterback under center in college. And I will say, I don't think he can not. That's too many knots. I think he can handle it if a quarterback was lined up there, but the transition's going to take time. It would be much easier if, yes, like you said, Lance is at quarterback and they are running more, not under center. And then he can transition over the course of time. So let's go back. Let's hit some more of these games. Let's talk about Jameis Winston going from, man, LASIK is the best thing ever to, hey, I'm Jameis again. Can he get LASIK a second time, Chris? Can we re-LASIK up? I know I got a touch-up surgery on my one eye, but I wasn't allowed to do it on both eyes because apparently, anyway. So Jameis Winston looked miserable. There's no qualms about it. He was god-awful in week 2. How concerned are you out of the offense, period? Because this is the second week in a row where no wide receivers. No really tight ends. We weren't really buying the Deante Johnson situation because of the 12 snaps and 2 touchdowns was fluky. We all admitted that. I say we all as in the fantasy world. Everybody understood that. But Kamara wasn't that was the one was okay, Kamara's fine. We don't have to worry about it. But Kamara got obliterated fantasy-wise because Winston got obliterated because he played crap. So actually, here, he gets one too. Winston played like. There you go. So how concerned are you for Winston / the Saints?
Yeah, I think it's pretty concerning, the fact too that 22 passing attempts and 20 in week 1. Like, he's clearly, like you said, he wasn't going to be that efficient. So here we are after 2 weeks. He's thrown the ball 42 times and he has, I don't know what, 259 passing yards. Quick math. Yeah, whoa, that's not great. That's not what you want. We want volume from quarterbacks. I mean, he's got to be super efficient. So there's two sides of it. He was super efficient in week 1 and he just wasn't at all in week 2. We don't have Michael Thomas coming back here for a couple weeks. And Marquez Callaway, what we talked about last week, he's going to have to deal with top corners. They got New England here coming up this week in New England. You got the Giants. They got, decent defense, is not playing up to par, which I still think that they have a decent defense and some solid corners there. And then they got Washington at Washington before the bye here. And then maybe we can get, we could potentially get Pittman back for the week 7, correct? And that would be in Seattle and then Tampa. Like, I'm looking ahead at this schedule. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like Marquez Callaway was a guy that I dropped in a 12-team league last week. And I didn't feel great about dropping him, but I liked my situation with wide receivers, that I just didn't feel like I would ever really play this guy with confidence. And it's this guy that I just don't know if I would hold. So I'm not feeling great about the offense. You just talked about the tight ends that you would swap out for chicken firemouth. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Like, I think a lot of people overreacted. Like, Jameis Winston went from 20% ownership to 70% ownership after 1 week. And now, like, moving forward, like, this isn't a quarterback that I would roll out there. Like, I'm not going to rank him as a top 15 quarterback if he's not going to throw the ball plus 25 times.
Yeah, so on the flip side of the ball, for the Carolina Panthers, Robbie Anderson concern level. Is he toast at this point? Is he just touchdown or bust because of what the Panthers offense has done to him?
I mean, here's
the thing. The Panthers last year already flipped the roles for DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson for anybody that might not be familiar with the situation. So DJ Moore was more of the over the middle of the field, short yards, do more after the catch. Robbie Anderson was go downfield. Carolina Panthers said, no, we're not doing that anymore. Joe Brady with Matt Rule came in and said, we're flipping those roles. Robbie Anderson was more of the middle of the field. DJ Moore was headed more downfield, which was fine last year. Until you bring Christian McCaffrey back in the fold. And that's why I think that Robbie Anderson is not an overreaction to say you're concerned about him right now.
No, you're right. I mean, Terrace Marshall had more targets than him in week 1, even though it was Robbie Anderson that played more snaps. And he did finish second in the team in snaps and routes run, and also targets among wide receivers. But you're right. I mean, and another thing too, and because since we're talking about Carolina, is that I do want to give them a little bit of credit on defense. Like, I think they're a little bit better defensively than what maybe some people thought, right? I mean, 2 years ago when they brought in Brady and Rule, I think they were one of the only teams in years to just draft defensive players. So they've really tried to revamp their defense a little bit. But yeah, Robbie Anderson isn't. I don't know, Jake, if I'm dropping him, but this isn't somebody that I would start. I don't think we can start him. He's the third option, I think, at best. And like you said, is just kind of getting phased into the offense in terms of targets.
This week, right?
What's that?
You said you know who Carolina gets this week, right?
Yeah, they got Houston, so it's a good the short week, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a good opportunity. Maybe the Texans give up a ton, as you know.
Yeah, so that's intriguing. I actually wish I could take back a trade. I was trying to clear a roster spot, and I sent not that it's terrible, but I sent Hardman and Pascal for Robbie Anderson, and I want Pascal back, honestly.
Yeah.
I disrespect my ODU boy. Let's talk about the Indianapolis game.
Yeah, sure.
So Michael Pittman balls out. Those concerns are gone again. Look, again. I just said it like 4 times. Michael Pittman's not going to ball out every single week. Michael Pittman's not going to be a top 15 wide receiver every single week. But at the same time, overreactions to week 1, I mean, what were like 95% of them out the window? Like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is one of the ones that is a concern. Winston wasn't a concern at the time, but it's similar to that. It was an overreaction by everybody. It's like 5 touchdowns on 200 yards. Not even. So, Indianapolis, Pascal and Pittman. Are how real are both? We'll pull them both into this conversation.
Well, Pittman is super talented. He was one of the most dropped players in Yahoo and ESPN leagues last week, and he was crazy overreaction.
Put him on your bench, but just don't drop him yet.
So this is what I said too, and I talked about it a lot at Mean Streets, and hopefully people didn't get it the wrong way. Is basically just what you said. Like, you can't start him. He's a great talent. It was Carson Wentz's first game. Now he's hurt, but it was Carson Wentz's first game, and he hadn't spent any time with the offense because he had the surgery. I think it was like the first or second day in camp. The foot thing came up, and so it's not a lot of time to gel with some of these guys. But Pittman is a terrific talent. And I just said, like, I don't know what Colts wide receiver you can feel comfortable rolling out. I mean, the offense in week 1 really ran through Hines and Jonathan Taylor. They combined for like 15 targets and 12 catches over 108 yards. I think it was actually like 108. And then looking at the matchup this week against the Rams, like Pascal had the second toughest matchup, according to a wide receiver quarterback matchup tool. And Pittman had the third. And Paris Campbell had the 8th. Toughest. So it was tough.
We're not talking about Paris Campbell. I mean, he's officially.
No, Campbell's done.
We're done on Paris Campbell,
Campbell,
right? Yeah.
Forget him. Yeah, he's done. He's nothing. But for Pittman, I think you feel great about his game. And Pascal too is a guy now. What's it? 3 touchdowns. Did he find the end zone yesterday? And he was a red zone threat too.
he does very. The funny thing is, if you look at his style, you're like, okay, this could be a guy, kind of like Robert, the lower end of Robert Woods. I'm not putting him on Robert Woods' tier, but. Whereas, okay, he does all this work and maybe he scores 3 touchdowns. But in reality, he's more like Cooper Kupp. Like, oh my God, all he does, or Adam Thielen, all he does is score touchdowns. He doesn't do a heck of a lot. And then they get in the red zone. It's like, hey, let's go find Zach Pascal, even despite they have Michael Pittman. So, interest in Jack Doyle, by the way. Jack Doyle.
Was that an outlier game? Like, this guy went off. He had 8 targets like that.
I actually thought he had the touchdown because I saw the 4 at first. And I just immediately went to 84. And then I was like, oh, no, wait, it's Zach Pascal, because Pascal wasn't involved a lot in that game. So I'm assuming you're moving on from the Browns, the Saints, same situation. You go after Jack Doyle, even if you may be chasing the hot hand, unless it's Jacob Eason at quarterback. I just put a lot of unlesses in there.
And is it going to be because that foot, like, he got rolled up? That looked pretty, that looked like it hurt.
I mean, it might be. We're going to have to wait and see on that one. Let's the other side of the ball. Van Jefferson, interest, second straight game, pushing Robert Woods for snaps, running a hell of a lot of 3 wide.
Totally interested. Absolutely. I grabbed him in a couple spots, deeper leagues last week. I know it was an underwhelming game, but you're right. The snaps were closer in terms of Woods and Kupp. Wow. Between Woods and Kupp, and then Jefferson and Woods, the snaps were a little bit closer between the latter. Like, you could see that he's going to be part of this offense and that they're going to throw the ball down the field with this guy. And just looking at last week, and it was a very small sample, but he had the second highest ADOT among wide receivers with at least 3 targets. And this offense is going to be awesome this year. So I am interested in Van Jefferson. He's not going to cost you a whole lot. And I think, even people that picked him up last week, Jake, you never know. Like, they'd be like, one catch. Like, I'm just going to cut my ties with him. So I think he'd be a decent little ad.
Okay. All right. So as you fix your IFB again, you have no idea what I'm saying.
Keep talking. I'm good.
I am. I'm joking the fact that you have to fix your IFB again.
I know. We'll count it next time. It's like 20 times. Over or under next week.
Everybody, early morning drinking game. If you want to drink, I don't promote that.
My goodness.
Because they be drunk. Right. Because you get everybody trashed. You know what? Hey, I can pull out the unicorn one because you know who's unicorn poop, because it's amazing unicorn poop. It's Justin Fields. Like, let's be honest, just Justin Fields' time is here. As ugly as it can be. Yes, as ugly as it can be, it can also be a hell of a lot of fun. And for all the excitement of Trey Lance, the Justin Fields this is the situation. Again, I wasn't expecting an injury, but we all were expecting Justin Fields by week 5 at the worst. Justin Fields going forward, Chris. Range. Top 12, top 15, top 10?
Top 15 for sure.
Okay.
Top 12. Yeah, I mean, the rushing upside is legit, right? I mean, even Jalen Hurts doesn't have a great day yesterday. He finds the end zone with his legs, and, he again, another game where he has 60-plus rushing yards, but this guy is, he's got top 5 upside just because of his legs. And the same thing can be said about Fields here. And there was a throw that I thought he made to Allen Robinson that Robinson should have caught. And more times, 9 times out of 10, that guy catches that ball in the end zone. And, it's all he needs to do with his legs is throw like 1 touchdown. I think, truly. If he's going to give you roughly 40 yards and maybe be a threat to run one in, he's going to be a top 12 quarterback just because of what he can do. He's starting with a free touchdown. That's why I'm not giving up on Cole Comet. And Mooney too is another guy that is hovering around 48%. Yeah, 48% in Yahoo. Like, nobody is really picking him up and gravitating to him. So he's a guy
that
that gets an uptick too.
Of this guy 12, what happened to Rob is, that entire game, like, you got to understand, and I'm not, when I said that, I just realized that sounds like I'm talking down to people when I say you got to understand, but I'm trying to explain what happened to Allen Robinson. It's similar to Tua Fitzpatrick last year. It's similar to Hurts coming in for Carson Wentz when hurt. And then also you had Andy Dalton come back into that game. There's zero rhythm. You have a different offense for Dalton than you will have for Fields. Hopefully they can transition pretty quick and it doesn't take the entire season like we saw with Tua and Fitzpatrick and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and trying to straddle the fence. But there was just no flow there. You're changing quarterback styles immensely. They're not on the same page. It's not like you're going from Carson Wentz to Joe Flacco. You can pull over a lot of similarities. So that was part of what went wrong in that game. He did have a touchdown catch. He probably should have had 2, as you mentioned. So I'm not worried about him. I'm with you on the whole Darnell Mooney situation as well. I think it's a lot of fun to be here. On the flip side, though, Chris, Cincinnati offense, I admittedly, I'll admit when I'm wrong. At least through 2 games, it looks like my Joe Burrow leading the league in pass attempts is not going to be correct. He's already behind the 8 ball, to use the cliche, because he hasn't thrown enough in the first 2 weeks and has a lot of catching up to do. But what are your thoughts on the Cincinnati offense as a whole? Because Joe Mixon is volume galore, but the offense just looks like disjointed. And I don't know if it's Burrow of the offensive line or it's just the culmination. I do know. Look, for me, it's the culmination. It's just everything. Just a lot of small things not going right.
Yeah, that's part of it. It could be a little bit of rust. And I read an article this morning from your colleague, Paul Danier Jr. of The Athletic, talking about how the offense has kind of suffered because they're playing conservative. Now, he said, like, Joe Mixon is getting a lot of the opportunities. And like he said, the volume is there and it's going to be there all year with him. I mean, dating back to last year, it's a small sample. I think it's 8 games now. Is like averaging 24 touches over those 8 games. So he's getting a ton of opportunity. He's going to finish among the top 5 in terms of touches. But his point was just like they've scaled it back a little bit, not letting Joe Burrow throw as much. Maybe they're just being conservative with him. And that's kind of hurt the offense a little bit. It's not, cooking as much as it did last year. So maybe they change that. Maybe they get into more of a pass happy offense moving forward. But I do fully believe that Mixon will be a guy that touches the ball at least 18 times week in and week out, and you add it up, right? I mean, that's all the plays per game. Like, say if you give them 65 on offense, like we're probably not seeing Joe Burrow again. Like 40.4 passing attempts is what he averaged last year, which was second behind Ben. It's early. I think part of it too, Jake, is the defense is playing a little bit better than I think what some people would expect too. So they haven't had to play a lot of catch up. So we'll see how the schedule changes a little bit.
The Vikings were kept in check. They, again, the Bears situation was somewhat handed to them with that situation going on with Andy Dalton, but did, only gave up 20 in that game. The concern is they got the Steelers this week in Pittsburgh. But if you want to talk about a buy-in opportunity, you can't buy it low on the wide receivers because they're still scoring touchdowns. But maybe Mixon, maybe Joe Burrow if you're looking for a quarterback. Maybe one of yours isn't playing well or got hurt. But talk about Joe Burrow after the Steelers game. How about this? Jaguars, Packers, at Lions, at Ravens, who have no defense, deep especially, at Jets, and then Browns. So basically, until you get to the Browns, Packers, everybody talks about Jair Alexander, but he can only shut down one person. They have 3. Till you get to the Browns, and then Raiders, and then Steelers again. So, I mean, you basically have 5 out of 6 good games and 5 straight good games, and then 6 out of 7 good games going forward after we get away from the Steelers.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really nice schedule. And I mean, I saw Trevor Lawrence's ownership higher than Joe Burrow, and Lawrence is just going to go.
Let's talk about that.
Lawrence is just going to go through something. Like we were talking about rookies, I was going to bring it up. Like Fields is the rookie. I mean, Mac Jones may have the best overall season as a rookie, but fantasy-wise, it's probably Fields now that he's going to get in there and what he can do with his legs. But yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, my goodness, you're a guy. And I like him too, Jake. But he's just in such a tough spot. I mean, the Jags had the first overall pick for a reason.
Yeah, and this was Denver's defense. So if we want to give a small pass, but even a small pass, he should still not 118 on 33 attempts, 118 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, averaged 3.6 yards. Marvin Jones, the only person that shows up in the box score because he had 11 targets. 11 targets. The entire team had 33. Yep, he had 1/3 of the targets, 55 yards and a touchdown. Next closest was O'Shaughnessy with 24 on 1 catch. Chark, 1 for 19. James Robinson, 3 for 17. You know who was second in targets? Laviska Shenault, 7. He just turned to
hurt.
7. 2 for -3. That's what he turned to 7 targets at. Laviska Shenault, for everybody out there, would have been better to leave your spot empty than to play Laviska Shenault. Well, unless you're maybe in full point PPR, but you get the point. -3 yards. So there's 2 takeaways here. Is the Shenault thing being hurt. Chark and Marvin Jones, if Chenault's out, are even more reliable, even though Chark had a down game. The only thing to really take away from this game, because even as bad as Lawrence is, Marvin Jones is going to be fine. Chark will be as boom or bust as he ever. They're not changing. The one I want to take away from this game is, do you feel better about James Robinson? Because James Robinson got 2/3 of the opportunities. He had 11 carries to Carlos Hyde's 2, which is really telling because he was kind of the pass catcher in game 1. And then he also had his 3 targets for 3 catches for 17 yards. And Carlos Hyde, just 2 for nothing on that one. So you feel better about James Robinson?
I do. Yeah, I feel better because I felt awful after week 1. Sick. As an owner, I felt sick that I didn't even start him in week 2.
Who do you come out feeling better about in week 2? Clyde Edwards-Helaire or James Robinson?
James Robinson. I feel better about James Robinson.
Really?
I feel. Sorry, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I thought.
Who did you think I was talking about?
I was Carlos Hyde.
Oh, no.
What am I? Urban Meyer and Carlos Hyde is on my mind. I forget who tweeted it out, but there's a picture with Urban Meyer and I don't know. You saw some family photos in the background, and then somebody had said "Geez, I forget who it was, but it was jokes. I was losing it. Is Carlos Hyde in those family photos anywhere in Urban Meyer's living room?" But James Robinson,
17 photos on his coffee table.
Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, go look this up. Some reporter took pictures inside our house, and the article I read was joking the fact this was her cry for help to come rescue her because she's trapped. 17 pictures on his coffee table, and they're all set up cascading behind each other, so you can't even see the pictures, because
it's super strange.
How do frames work? You can't see the picture behind it if you're putting pictures like this.
Right.
It's an insane looking house, I will say that. And the 2 random floating pink flamingos in the pool, I felt like I was waiting for 70s noir, a crime show or something. Or there's gonna be a dead body floating with them. Anyway, sorry, continue.
It's funny to bring up. Yeah, people should go check it out if you want a good laugh. But yeah, Robinson plays, I don't know, I think he had 41, 42 snaps and had only, single digit, I think maybe 14, but nothing more than 15. So that was encouraging. But also this offense, it's just not going to be good, you have Jones, like you said, and Chark has, I don't think he had 12 targets in week 1. He only caught 3 of them, but he finds the end zone. So it's going to be, at least volume is king, right? Volume is, the opportunity is going to be there. It's a brutal team. It's going to be throwing, clearly Lawrence is going to be throwing quite a bit this season, whether he's going to be accurate or not. I wouldn't play him in fantasy, but I think, you could at least feel decent about the volume. I think this Laviska thing is going to be concerning. I think I'm just reading now, he's going for an MRI on his knee. So that could be, that's even worse for Lawrence to lose a guy in that offense. But yeah, Robinson, I think you feel great. Better. But would you start him? Where are you going to rank him? Are you going to rank him as I played Javonte Williams over him, knowing that Melvin Gordon was still going to be a pain in the butt. I did the same thing.
And let's talk about the other side of the ball. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams, another game, looked better. Actually, this time, the first week, people wanted to debate it. Mostly, before that long run, people were like, "Oh, it was kind of close." If you're watching the players, it really wasn't. Williams was clearly, it's similar to the situation with Baltimore, which we should probably come back to, but Williams looked more explosive, more talented than the other option being Melvin Gordon. If you strip the names away from the jerseys and you knew nothing, you would say Williams did. Even if you were up in the air, week 2, you definitively knew Williams was the better running back. But more touches, more passing work for Melvin Gordon. So, again, we were playing the long game here with Williams, but are they both just startable right now? Would you start both of them again next week over James Robinson, or would you put one Robinson and then the other?
I need to just let me take a look at the schedule. Who do they play? I was into playing both this week.
Schedule? They're playing the Jets. That's what I asked.
I would. I play them both.
You play both over James Robinson?
And even still, Williams having 7.9 fantasy points obviously is not that appealing, but you're right. He looked better. He had fewer snaps this week, but he looked like the better running back. But
the Cardinals.
I'd play both. I would play both probably over him. I still like right now, like Melvin Gordon is still ranked higher than me week in and week out. That may change, but Williams is the guy that I would rather have. Like I feel he has the higher ceiling, but Melvin Gordon really, he may just not go anywhere or go away. Like he like you said, targets. He's probably going to get more targets. I haven't seen too many like real goal line carries from this team yet. So we'll see how that plays out. But he's been a guy that has been successful getting those goal line carries over the course of his career, apart from his rookie year. But yeah, I mean, I think there's more upside here in this offense just to grab one of these two or play one of these two backs over James Robinson. But
all right, well then let's go back to Tyson Williams, who we didn't talk about.
And he looked good.
Tyson Williams looked better. Tyson Williams is the lead. I got to compare this, and we're going to jump into the next game as we kind of do so. I think that he's just their Myles Gaskin. He's going to touch the ball 50%-ish, and the other options, that being Freeman and Latavius Murray in that game, are going to get the other 50%, potentially lose the goal line carries as he did. He lost a touchdown to Latavius Murray, but Williams is the one you can use. Low-end RB kind of in the same conversation. Javonte Williams, James Robinson, a tick below Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but all kind of in that same – they're all in that same group. They're low-end RB2s.
Yeah, Williams looks good. It's 2 weeks in a row. He's run the rock pretty well with a purpose. He's fast. He's catching balls out of the backfield. The Ravens do like Latavius Murray, though. It's two straight weeks where they gave him some red zone opportunities. I mean, he looked good on both of those runs in week one. He looked good, just running over people and finding the end zone. And he looked good last night and the red zone. I think it was like from the 10 or the 11. And, he found a way to get inside the end zone. But there was a point later on in the game, Jake, where they finally got in the red zone again. And I was thinking, okay, this should be telling. Is Latavius going to come in here? Is he going to be the goal line back? And it was actually Williams. So it's not to say that Latavius is the clear number one when they get inside the red zone and the goal line opportunity, but this is a team that just runs the ball so well. I really don't know how
although Lamar Jackson led them with 16 attempts.
Sure. But it opens up
question.
So much for everybody.
Javonte Williams or Tyson Williams? The answer is matchups. You know who the Ravens get this week? The Detroit Lions.
The Detroit Lions. Yeah. They'll probably both have. That's going to be a situation where Williams is going to be a top 20 back for me, and Latavius is probably going to be a flex play.
Yeah. But no. I was saying the Williams is like Tyson versus Javonte. And I'm saying this week. Yeah, this week, Tyson Williams. Yeah. Fix your ISB so you can hear these questions. Come on now.
No, I did hear that one.
I'm just messing with you.
Reading the comments, like I like the guy.
That's my job. I got you taken, so you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, so you're reading back up. You're getting sidetracked over here. Let me take care of the comments while you're answering questions. Speaking of Miami, again, we know the situation back there. There are two parts here to talk about. Concerns on both sides, honestly. If you watch that game, for anybody out there, the reason Tua got hurt is the same reason I'm surprised Jacoby Brissett finished the game. He came up ailing a lot, and I was like, oh, who's their emergency quarterback because they don't have a third. That offensive line, this entire offense, how concerned are you in the passing game? Because even down to Parker and Jalen Waddle, who had some drops in that game, with no Will Fuller, who now mysteriously might not even play football again. No idea what's going on with that. Are you panicking on the Miami offense?
Yeah, I think you should. The offensive line looks awful. It looked brutal in week one. It looked brutal in week two. You just talked about the quarterbacks taking shots. Reports out of Miami, I don't want to speculate that Will Fuller is not interested in playing football and he just may straight up retire. So, I mean, I like Waddle as a player. I think, in full point PPR leagues, he gets a bigger boost. He passes his props, catches and yards again. It's been like 3.5 and 45. Like that's kind of something I think he can, expect. Maybe six grabs, 60, 70 yards. Parker gets an uptick. Like I'm seeing his ownership. I was surprised.
I think they're kind of like the Jaguars.
Yeah.
As bad as things can be, at least the two wide receivers will be usable. Again, there might be some ugliness to it, but when it's that condensed, this is what we want in fantasy. No Will Fuller. Mike Gesicki's now left out because Jalen Waddle, as we mentioned a million times in the offseason, was going to ruin his value and has. It's now down to three guys. It's Myles Gaskin, Jalen Waddle, and Parker. And similar to Jacksonville, it's Marvin Jones, DJ Chark, and James Robinson. Again, those don't sound enticing. They're kind of more fringy, flexy guys. But
volume, though.
Yeah, it's volume. On the flip side of it, any concern after 2 weeks for Josh Allen? Any concern? 1 to 5 ducks. 1 to 5 ducks. How many are you giving?
I'd give him 2 ducks.
Okay.
2 ducks. Yeah.
I'm with you on the 2. He's
Yeah.
showing glimpses of that second year Josh Allen, not even rookie Josh Allen. Like,
He is.
because second year was better, but second year was definitely like still making some mistakes and not last year's Josh Allen.
You know who actually looks good in that offense, and I don't know, maybe we can trust him soon, but probably not. Is Devin Singletary actually looked pretty good 2 weeks? I know Zach Moss came in there and got a couple touchdowns, but Singletary has looked good, and that's why you can't trust this backfield because you just don't know week in and week out. But one thing I've noticed, I mean, Josh Allen, the week 1, we say, okay, it was the Steelers, but he threw a career-high 51 pass attempts. The offensive line looked brutal in that game. They had 6 penalties, holding penalties, and Allen wasn't accurate. He didn't look good, and he only ends up with 270 passing yards and 51 attempts. And then yesterday, he only has 179 passing yards, 33 attempts. So, yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people are ranking him over Kyler, but it's not even close, right? Between the two. So I'm just a little concerned. You said the 2 Ducks, you agreed.
Yeah, they got another test this week, too, with Washington. And then they got Texans, Chiefs, Titans, Dolphins. Oh, Dolphins again.
Then it could open up for them.
I think people are forgetting how good the Dolphins' defense can be, especially with that duo back there in the secondary led by Xavier and Howard. We got a rapid fire. Somebody's going 6 games, rapid fire.
Let's go.
Jets and Patriots. Michael Carter time.
17 Ducks, Jets offense.
Michael Carter time's coming, right? Split touches, no Tevin Coleman. Elijah Moore, you still stashing Elijah Moore?
Absolutely.
Who's out there second most. All right. Damon Harris worry. There was 0.
Baby.
I would have had 0 when it comes to Ramondre Stevenson, who is inactive for the game. But James White got a carry from the 7 for the touchdown.
He did.
So
of course.
Do you have Damon Harris concerns, or were you just
No,
joking?
I don't. I don't have any concerns. White's gonna be sprinkled in. I don't know how many times he's gonna get carries from the 7. Damien Harris, like that run was awesome. Like Harris is great. It just what we talked about week 1. He had 3 targets, 2 catches. We were talking about maybe borderline bell cow.
Yep.
I think that's just wishful thinking, but he's a really good back, and I think he's a strong RB2.
I would start him over most of the running backs we've been talking about so far.
Absolutely.
Damien Harris or Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Damien Harris.
Boom, done. Like it. Houston, Cleveland. Cook's the only Texan we care about, right?
Your boy, man.
What volume is king? How many times did I say this offseason?
Yeah, he led all wide receivers in targets. And dude, you need to start, forget Tyreek Hill props. Like Cooks is 4.5 catches for like 50 yards week in and week out. That's 2 weeks now. 4.5 grabs for him. Jump on it again. It's probably going to be 4.5 again because who knows who the heck's going to be the quarterback. I don't know what Pat called him on his show, like Dr. I don't know. He's like detective. I forget what he used, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, Cook, roll him out. Right. Roll him out there. And
on the flip side, if Landry is out, which by the way, holy crap, because this team with the wide receivers, no idea what's going on with Odell Beckham because they're not being clear on why he still hasn't even got. Yeah, so if Odell Beckham's out, if Jarvis Landry is out, Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Sure. I mean, we're looking at the next guy up, right? Deep threat guy. Somebody's got to catch passes there. Yeah.
I just laughed at Davis Mills' error instead of era. That's well done, this guy.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. This guy.
Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Antonio Brown left out. Gronk smashes again. 2 parts of that. Antonio Brown this is what we had going in, right? It's always going to be somebody potentially left out between when you have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. But this is why I was on Godwin, because he's the one that doesn't really get left out. But Gronk, are you selling high, or is he the best tight end draft pick that anybody made this year?
Didn't I say last week if he gets 4 more touchdowns, he's a lock to finish as a top 5 tight end, and he had a couple more? Like, what are you selling him for? Right? Okay. Just roll him out every week. I mean, if you could
the name, if
sure.
You could get,
okay, so let's just walk through. Let's just walk this out.
How about this? Let's go back to George Kittle, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You could get Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Gronk. Would you do it? Wow, you're thinking. For everybody that can't see the video,
I'm thinking that I'd probably take
that's
the
answer.
Back.
That's the answer. That's the answer. The fact that you're thinking about it. And I put that out there to say, I'm taking the running back because they're so hard to find.
Exactly.
But the fact that you're debating it is the point that I'm making. So speaking of which, I know neither of these running backs, and I put one in quotes because he is now already. Can we get this fixed? Can people just change it? He is not a wide receiver anymore. Cordell Patterson is not a wide receiver anymore. Fix the damn thing to running back on all formats.
ESPN
but anyway,
ESPN at least has him as an RB only.
Thank you. Mike Davis, we're now concerned, right? I'm the Mike Davis guy, but this is like almost a 50-50 split at this point.
Yeah, he still only touched the ball like a couple times, but he finds the end zone. Yeah, it's a split. That's it.
That's my concern. It's not just that you
Yeah.
touched it, but he's also getting carries when they met, like some valuable carries. I'm still on Mike Davis over Cordarrelle Patterson, to be clear.
Yep.
But I think Mike Davis is in that same James Robinson conversation.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he's getting catches out of the backfield, right? They both are, but Cordarrelle is getting them, and he's looked good through 2 games with limited touches. I thought he looked really strong against the Eagles.
All right, one quick fire question here: Rondell Moore, KJ Osborne, who's more for real?
Rondell is, but man, KJ Osborne, this is 2% ownership now.
More snaps.
Week 1, fine. You didn't believe in week 1, but he was right there. We talked about him. The snaps were there. The targets were there. More 3 wide receiver sets in Minnesota, which is something we're not used to seeing. And now it's, again, 2 weeks now. We've seen it. Clearly, the defense has a lot of holes, and they're going to play in a lot of shootouts. So why not have the third option? And somebody told me that Dalvin Cook's the third option. It's like, no, Dalvin Cook is great. But as of right now, KJ Osborne has the 3rd most targets on the team, 2 behind Adam Thielen. So, yes, like, pick up this guy. Maybe you don't want to start him, but pick him up. Like, he should be rostered.
But Rondell Moore outscored on my bench.
Moore is awesome,
outscored
too.
3 people combined. James Robinson. Oh no, wait. James Robinson was on my bench too. Who was it? It was a Kenny Galladay and some other people. I was upset about that. Rondell
Kenny
Moore.
Galladay droppable? No.
Well, I'm about to finish off with that game. But real quick, Dallas and Chargers. Are you concerned about Zeke? And are you starting Tony Pollard as a potential flex running back as he's startable? Period.
Yeah, he's interesting now in flex. I mean, he's good enough. He's really good. I think, the fantasy community likes him quite a bit, but I don't know if I like him as much. But he's a good back in terms of like, this is a good offense, and he's going to be involved in the
Murray
offense.
for the Saints.
Yeah, if
You
you're
can
going to
start
give him,
but you might get 4 points. You might get a touchdown and 12.
if I told you that he's going to get 8 touches next week, 8 touches, would you start him on 8 touches?
No.
Well, how many
I'm hoping
touches
for a
would he
touchdown.
need? 12?
12
touches? And I don't know how many touchdowns he's really going to get.
Right.
To be honest, like, it's going to have to be a catch that he breaks one, or maybe a run that he breaks. I still think Zeke is the guy
He's
that
fun, but
they
I
bring
think
in.
part of it is what you said. It's, you know what? It's not the same exactly. By the way, they faced the Eagles this week. I don't want to touch him as a back. I don't want to back up running back against that Eagles run defense. This is Christian Michael. This is the fantasy community has a lot of fun joking about, and I say it's a different situation because he's not the lead, but it's like I tweeted yesterday that Tony Pollard was a vulture. And immediately got responses. Are you really the vulture if you're the better running back? Shut the hell up. He is
That's
not
so
better.
annoying to hear. Yeah, I don't
But
believe in
that's the
any of that
thing.
nonsense.
But that's the thing, is yes, Tony Pollard looks good, but you know what? It even might be a better situation too. Is like Lamar Miller, like get him more touches. He looks good in his role. Latavius Murray looks good in his role. Let's find out. I still can't do it yet. Anyway, all right, last one. We didn't talk about this game last week. We didn't talk about the Thursday game, but I do want to touch on it because we don't have any shows by the time we talk Thursday through Monday. Real quick. How aggressive is better the question? How aggressive are you trying to buy low on Saquon Barkley and Kenny Galladay?
Kenny Galladay, I want no part of. Like, he was the bust for me. As my bold predictions, I said he'd be droppable.
I told you it wasn't even bold.
Yeah, I know you did.
Because he doesn't fit Daniel Jones.
But I said
I told
he
you it
would be
wasn't bold enough.
Droppable.
Okay,
People were
all right.
drafting this guy.
So
as a top
Saquon
30
Barkley.
Saquon I'd buy. I was encouraged. With week 2. He had the big run. I think they need to find a way to get more creative when it comes to Saquon. Like, get more creative with him. The offensive line I thought played better.
The offensive
Jake
coordinator.
Yeah, of course. Like, get rid of Garrett. But the offensive line I thought played better. I actually was impressed with Daniel Jones. I thought he had a really strong game against maybe Washington's defense is not as good as we thought. But to answer your question, I would buy Saquon. Snaps were there.
Again,
somebody
somebody was like, thanks for telling me to draft him at 109. It's like, how many times did I say draft him at the end of the first round and expect him by October? That was
our
my
very
point.
first show here, Jake. We talked about.
We said it a million times. Like,
basically,
the play with Barkley was the investment of October forward, and the fact that you're
Yes.
getting flex running back. What do you have? 6-7 points? It's not great, but it's a flex level. That's your worst case scenario through the first couple weeks. On the flip side, real quick. Oh, by the way, the Kenny Galladay, it was Daniel Jones misplaced a couple of those throws where Kenny Galladay comes down with him because he's a contested catch receiver.
Yep.
If Daniel Jones could throw into coverage better, but that's why I didn't like the fit. We'll get out of here on this one. Antonio Gibson concern. I was about to say 2 to 5 ducks. You might have to start at 2 because I know it's at least 2. J.D. McKissic back in the passing game. Tyler Haneke is now up on the wall until further
I didn't
notice.
notice that.
Yeah, I put him up on the
Nice.
wall. I moved him over here because he was covering the TV. But now he's staying around. Tyler Haneke, we talked about this. I said he brings back value to J.D. McKissic, but Antonio Gibson concerns because McKissic is now back involved in the passing game.
It's 2. I could see 3. I like him overall, but it is going to be frustrating. You're right. I mean, the play calling too. Like this guy was 5.2 yards per carry, and they decided not to give him the ball to run out that game. And then J.D. McKissic, you're right, is going to be a guy that's going to be. He's 2-minute drill, lock him in. Third down, lock him in. And heck, he stole a goal line touch from him as well, which he converted for a touchdown. I don't get it. Like Antonio Gibson is a wide receiver converted running back. Like why can't he line up out of the backfield on third down to catch balls? Like they split him out wide sometimes. So it's just the coaching staff. Like it's not the skill set. It's the coaching staff that makes me concerned. I'll give him 2 ducks. I don't know. You give him 3 ducks?
No, I give him 2. It's still a worst case scenario. He's Antonio Gibson last year. The problem is he has more ducks in perception than he does in reality, is because people want him to be a first round pick. And imagine if he got 20 touches a game, and that was never really in the cards, in my opinion. And that's where it really comes from. Sometimes the expectancy creates more ducks. There you go, ducks.
How many ducks are you giving my IFB?
5 out of 5 ducks.
7 ducks.
Yeah, you need some air fryer youth over there. So file Chris Meaney at Chris Meaney. Make sure you're checking out all the work over at FTN, theathletic.com/BetsTV, all caps, for your first free month. Hey, more subscribe, thumbs up, ring the bell, do all that crappy stuff, or the good crappy stuff, unicorn crappy stuff, good stuff. Positive 5-star reviews on iTunes and all that stuff. We need more to thank you so we can keep doing these shows. And we'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. with Stepmom Lauren, and send Chris some money so he can get a good hit piece. We'll see you later.